Chopper!
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Get to the Chopper, and thanks to you, Brendan Logan, for being our guest host. Brendan is the Health and Welfare Officer at the Mendy Blackhawks, and you're going to tell us a little bit about your role.
Well, Nate, firstly, thanks very much for having me. An absolute pleasure to be here. Absolute pleasure. So my role as a Wellbeing and Education Manager is just to assist the young players off the field. They're really well looked after on the paddock. So my role is to give a hand anything outside their football. So it might be having a better relationship issue. It might be looking for work. It might be that they need to speak to someone who's way more qualified than I. So my role would be to put them in contact with someone who could then take them on to that next level if required.
And I guess how often would you speak to the players, or they come to you as much as they want, sort of thing?
Well, I've been at the club for 3-4 years now, so with most of them you have developed a bit of a rapport, which is really important. So I do hope that if a young man has an issue, that they feel comfortable in coming to see me. If not, I've got a bit of a list that I check in with each boy, each young man, probably every 3 or 4 weeks, just to see how things are going.
Well, there's another reason we've got you on the show. The club started a new concept last year, I think it was the first year, Cultural Night. Can you tell us all about it? Because you sort of part organised it, right?
Yeah, it had a little bit to do with it. The boys ran the show, I just helped organise. So the whole idea, for us, the Blackhawks are a community and everyone needs to feel part of that community. So we had a look at how many different cultures we have within our organisation, and there's 14 different cultures within our playing group between the 21s and the A grade. So we thought, let's create some cultural awareness by giving our young men the opportunity to exhibit their culture, and we thought the best way to do that maybe is through food with the young blokes. So we asked them to bring in a traditional dish that they could speak to the group about and we could enjoy together, and also asked a few boys to have a chat about their culture just to tell their story.
Yeah, it was actually really interesting. Some of the boys' stories were rather fascinating.
Incredible, and I believe you're going to show them today, is that right?
We are, right now.
PNG, Samoa, Germany, Asi Naimala, thank you mate. That just goes to show an incredible diversity in our cultures, and I do hope that you feel that your culture is valued within our club men. I really do, and that's what this little evening's all about. We'll get through the speeches firstly and then into the tucker. So thank you very much for all those who prepared a little for this evening. Really appreciate it.
I'm Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. My Aboriginal heritage, from what we know, my family was a part of the stolen generation. I hail from the Burdekin area, so Berry Gubba. And then my Torres Strait Islander heritage on my dad's side is from the Eastern Islands, Arab, also known as Darnley Island.
I'm Indigenous on my dad's side, and we're out from the Booyah, Dajara area, and my tribes are Pitta Pitta and Wankamala. My family actually has a pretty cool history, and it's fairly well documented as well. My great-great-great-granddad came over on a vessel and crashed just off the coast of here, actually. The Indigenous from around this area picked him up, and they lived with them for almost 20 years. He was the only white survivor to come through. Ended up walking down and into the Burdekin area, and that's sort of where he resided, and started up a cattle property down there and been there for 145 years now on the same property and same family. We've never really left.
I'm going to be talking about my PNG heritage today. World War II, obviously Japan invaded the Pacific and they took over that island where my family is from. My family comes from another little island that's just off that. So my great-grandfather was taken into the army camps and had to work, put through some pretty tough conditions, and they understood the price of rebelling. It was execution, and the way they executed people back then was head chopped off.
Obviously Tongan, not Indian. I didn't bring the the curry chicken pies. No, seriously, my mum and dad are Tongan. They were born there. Half my siblings were born in Tonga. The rest of us were born in New Zealand. The dish I brought today is probably my favourite Tongan dish. Every time I go back home, I ask my mum to make it. It's called lusipi, pretty much taro leaves and lamb with some coconut cream, onion and tomato.
Big families, especially Indigenous families and Islander families, they celebrate things through food. Little bits of food here are just a reminder of where they've come from. For instance, Whitey's grandma made the tiramisu. That's how she's probably been making it for years. Food that I've picked up It's not an Indigenous dish, but it's through me meeting some Islander boys. It's one of my favourite dishes, namas. It's something pretty special to be able to eat some raw fish or eat some sop or eat some, damper. If you've never tried it before, just try it. You don't have to like it, but just get in ripping.
Yeah, really well done, guys. A great night. And Logs, we only saw, I guess, a snippet of what the boys were really talking about.
Yeah, we did, Nath. Some really incredible stories that the young men shared with us. And I do hope with the other young fellows who saw that, how proud some of our players were of their culture, that'll encourage them to delve a little bit deeper into their cultural background, maybe do some research so they can tell their own story going forward.
Yeah, I feel like I probably should have maybe got a few more shots, but with that sort of food around, it was hard not to have a feed while I was, trying to film some stuff.
Understood. We had to get into it pretty quickly.
Now, I did notice a lot of the boys had the thongs and the singlets on, and that's typical Townsville winter. I don't think they packed any of that in Stanthorpe for Country Round.
No, I did see it was -4 in Stanthorpe during the week. I think the morning they played it was 0, but in the 20s by the time they got on the paddock. So life wasn't too bad.
Well, pretty nice weather to play in, and a pretty nice performance from the Manly Black Hawks as well against the Clydesdales, winning 42-12. And a little shout out to Tom Duffy, who slotted 7 conversions from 7 attempts, a couple from the sideline. So not all gimmies, but our wingers were unstoppable. Jodeci Baker-Taraha scored a try in each half. He didn't have to do much for the first, but his second was a superb solo effort, slicing and dicing defenders on his way to the stripe. And Rob Darby, who of course made his NRL debut earlier this year, continues to impress. A man of the match performance. He did it all, scored a great try, punched out some strong carries, and was solid defensively as well. A beast on the field, but Logs, he seems like a pretty quiet character off it.
Yeah, he is a quiet character, Nath, but a really, really nice young fellow. Comes from a terrific family up in Cairns. Really well-mannered, terrific young bloke to have around the joint. But as you say, he's a beast. He's got a really strong carry in him, really rips in every week. He's been great.
Yeah, I'd say probably one of our most consistent performances. He's won the Anzac medal. He's been one of our best players all year. And yeah, like you said, he might be quiet off the field, but he's certainly not quiet on the field. Now, it was a great weekend all round actually in Stanthorpe. The boys visited a local junior footy club, Stanthorpe Gremlins. Good on you kids. Got some snaps, autographs, and probably a few footy tips, I'd say. And our Rugby League Development Officer Tim Nugent and Graham Grizzly Adams, who's based in Brisbane, actually spent a few days in the area running coaching clinics in the schools. They put the students from Greenland State School, Broadwater State School and Stanthorpe District through their paces with a few skills and drills. So well done to everyone at the club that was involved heading to Stanthorpe. Now, no footy this weekend, full competition bye in the Hostplus Cup. The boys will probably have a few days off now, and Logs, do you think that's a good thing to get away from footy for a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Have a little bit of a break, refresh, get ready to go for the last few games of the season. And we've got a few of our players with young families, so really good for them to spend a bit of time with their families over the weekend.
Yeah, well, I know 1 or 2 of them wanted to play in the local league. Paddy Kafusi wanted that $5,000 a game he gets playing for the Vertigan. But Painey quickly shut that one down. He wants the boys fresh and firing, as you said, heading into that charge towards the finals. And if we win our next game, we could be in the top 8 by the end of the round, depending on other results, of course. Following that home match against Mackay, we've got 3 more games in August. And if we continue our recent run of form, I think we will scrape into the 8. It could all come down to that last round against Burleigh at Jack Manskey Oval. Enough if, buts and maybes though, we just got to keep collecting 2 points, Logs.
Yeah, you're right, Nath. We're just outside the 8. We can't rely on other results. We've got to get the job done.
Now, speaking of winning, we've got part 2 of our Manly Black Hawks Ashes to bring you. The scores are hanging in the balance, 2-1 to the Aussies with 2 sports remaining. Our English representatives just had a few immigration issues which we've sorted, so those final 2 events will be played out shortly, and of course we'll bring you all that action. But Brendan, that's us done for the show. You've done really well, mate. Thanks for stopping by. You can come back anytime. Just don't bring the construction workers next door with you.
Thanks, Nate. Love your work. Thanks for having me.
Love his work. And remember, you can stay up to date with all your Manly Black Hawks news by jumping on our social media pages and, of course, our club website. We'll see you next week to preview the Mackay Cutters clash.